The Tower of Babel, as told in Genesis 11, 1-9, was a city and tower built tall enough to reach God and heaven by the people of Mesopotamia. They believed they could reach heaven themselves, be like God, and because of this, no longer felt they needed him or his power. The construction of said city and tower was an act of defiance against the big guy upstairs. It was a symbol of pride and arrogance, one of the 7 deadly sins, and as punishment, God made it so everyone spoke different languages, so they could not communicate with each other and complete it. The people scattered around the world, and it's through this that the story attempts to explain the reason we all speak different languages today. Now why in blue blazes am I telling you all this? A tale of such confusion amongst people, an act of defiance against God, the deadly sin of pride at work. Well, boys and girls, gather round the carpet for another session of story time with NerdGasm, as I run down and analyze Justice League of America Tower of Babel. Let's begin. Enraged at the stupidity of human beings, causing the endangerment and extinction of several of Earth's creatures, Ra's al Ghul has had enough and intends to thin the herd, of humans that is, causing a reduction in the global population. He will take out and nullify the Justice League in creative fashion, attacking each of their weaknesses, all while distracting his true enemy, Bruce Wayne, Batman, by having his League of Assassins rob the grave of his deceased parents. First, they attack Martian Manhunter, covering him in nanites that convert the outer layer of his skin into magnesium that ignites when exposed to the air. The Manhunter is of course vulnerable to fire. Plastic Man is frozen and then shattered, and Aquaman is hit by a special form of Scarecrow's fear gas, which gives him hydrophobia. At this point in the comics, Aquaman still needed water to survive, and without it for several hours, he would die. Green Lantern has been left blinded after a post-hypnotic suggestion was given to him while he slept, and the ring was placed on him fueled by his will. Without sight, he can't see what he is imagining, and can't successfully target it in any way. Wonder Woman has a nanite injected into her ear, leaving her in a virtual reality world, where she is in an endless battle with an opponent of equal strength and skill. Time escapes her, everything else is phased out. And finally, the Flash is shot at with a special Vibra bullet, which enters his spinal column and causes him to have light-speed seizures. Superman attempts to contact Batman for assistance. These attacks are specific and premeditated, but he is busy attempting to track down his parents' remains without the League knowing. His full attention is on that at the moment, and he feels they can handle whatever it is they are battling on their own. Ra's initiates his second wave of his plan, interfering with the language centers of the human brain and scrambling all written word everywhere you can find it, creating Babel. It causes global panic, anarchy, and confusion, turning the stock exchange into sheer chaos, collapsing the economy, causing turf wars between gangs because they can no longer distinguish territory borders. Public transportation is a mess, plane routes, warning signs, hospitals and operating tables. It's raining cats and dogs. Batman arrives at Ra's hideout, following the breadcrumbs left by his minions from his parents' grave. Before Batman can further react, Ra's offers to drop them into one of his Lazarus pits, which could potentially revive them. Ra's targets the emotional connection Batman has to his parents, and he nearly agrees, before realizing what Ra's is doing and snaps out of it. Ra's shows the Dark Knight red kryptonite, and Batman understands what has been happening to his allies all along. Batman tries to warn them, but Ra's and his men have blocked his communications within the room and prevent him from escaping. Superman is affected by another piece of red kryptonite, blasted with intense radiation that is less lethal than the original green form, not capable of killing the Man of Steel, but overloads his solar absorption abilities, which overwhelms his powers. As Batman races to his incapacitated allies, he reveals to Superman and the rest of the League that all these plans, traps, and directions of attack on them were his creations. This is all his fault. As Batman continues to warn League members such as Aquaman, Ra's creates more Babel, now with spoken word. All forms of communication are now useless. As Aquaman collapses from a lack of water, Plastic Man comes too, having been put back together by the Flash before he was shot. Wearing an Atlantean water suit, Martian Manhunter is able to place Aquaman in a water tank and use a telepathic delusion to make him believe he is breathing air. Plastic Man is also able to stretch thin and remove the VR nanite from Wonder Woman's ear. Despite his overwhelmed state, Superman manages to focus a little bit of power to laser the device attached to Flash's spine and nullify it. Green Lantern simply removes his ring after Martian Manhunter assumes it is responsible, giving back his sight. Batman has uncovered the transmission source of Ra's al Ghul's communication interference tower, and contacts the League at the Watchtower, where they prepare to meet him and end this, though Superman tells them all that it may be another trap set up by Batman. They can no longer trust him. As Batman flies to Ra's tower, Superman confronts him, wishing to talk. Batman is oblivious of the situation though, or at least is focused on the task at hand, planning their direction of attack against Ra's and his assassins. They all arrive in Antarctica. Batman had stolen one of Ra's nullifiers, allowing them all to communicate with one another. Things are a bit awkward though. Superman single-handedly deals with Ra's tower and removes all the language babble happening on Earth. He wants answers from Bruce. They stare each other down, and Batman tells him he had his reasons. He's just as upset that he lost his secret files, though the League find that problem less troublesome. The fact that they were created in the first place is the issue. Talia, Ra's daughter, contacts them though, sick of being her father's pawn, and warns them that her father intends to use nerve gas toxins on the world to initiate nuclear war. Batman wants the League to split up to face the challenge, but after everything that has transpired, they refuse his commands and no longer trust him. Superman and Batman go to stop Ra's, but the Man of Steel is reluctant to work alongside the Dark Knight any longer. As they travel to their adversary, Batman breaks the silence, explaining that after the alien tyrant Agamemnon helped the Injustice League switch bodies with that of the original League during the events of the storyline Silver Age, Batman felt precautionary measures were necessary to prevent anything like that from happening again. Also, if any of the heroes ever decided to go rogue. The world's finest team catch up with Ra's al Ghul, and Superman realizes he had taken Bruce Wayne's parents. The Man of Steel attempts to retrieve them, but more red kryptonite is being held between them. Batman closes in on Ra's, but he releases Wayne's parents, who begin to fall towards the Lazarus Pit, Superman helpless to catch them. Thankfully, Martian Manhunter arrives and catches the caskets. All is good. Plastic Man and Wonder Woman neutralize the assassin, attempting to disperse the nerve gas, and using the lasso of Hestia, which compels him to tell the truth. Wonder Woman asks him if he wishes to die. At first he says yes, but she makes him realize that following Ra's al Ghul is not honorable, that his master probably doesn't even know his true name. What he does today will most likely get him killed, and he will not be remembered. He succumbs and surrenders. Despite Ra's al Ghul escaping, the Justice League have weakened him and his resources, not to mention have conquered the traps made to defeat each of them. They have won, for now. But their next challenge lies in Batman, the man responsible for the traps and their cold and calculated designs. They discuss the topics of safety, strategy, and teamwork amongst themselves, and decide whether or not Batman should be expelled from the Justice League for his actions behind their back. Green Lantern feels that his power, much like all of theirs, could fall into the wrong hands, and having a failsafe is the right way to go, even if he didn't know it existed. Wonder Woman feels the same, however, she can't fight alongside someone she doesn't trust. Batman could have told them the contingencies existed, just not their specific details. She votes him out. Plastic Man also agrees, and with the voting now equal, 3 for keeping him, 3 for getting rid of him, it's up to Superman to break the tie. But when the Justice League enter the meeting room to confront Batman, he has already left, knowing that Superman would vote yes. So that's Tower of Babel. What makes it such a great story? Well, it analyzes the controlling nature of Batman. The character at his core is someone who can't trust others, regardless of whether or not they are his teammates. Look at Robin, Nightwing, or any member of the Bat family for crying out loud. His trust only goes so far. In terms of the Justice League, the fact that they are immensely powerful metahumans, essentially gods, puts Batman in a paranoid state. He's afraid of them in many ways, or more accurately, what they can do if they go unchecked. The actions of Ra's al Ghul in the story mirror those of God in the book of Genesis, creating confusion amongst the populace and turning their language into Babel, evidently using a tower to do it. He is punishing humans because of the way they treat the earth and its animals. They are in many ways living as if they are gods themselves, with arrogance and pride at the forefront. Batman's actions towards the League are also a reference to the religious tale, because he acts in defiance towards the other members of his team, who he, and many humans, view as gods themselves. After this defiance, the communication breaks down amongst the heroes. They are no longer on the same page, much like the people of Mesopotamia were after God punished them. The big question of debate in regards to this story is if Batman's actions were right. Should he have done what he did, regardless of the plans falling into the wrong hands? I feel fans are polarized on this matter, and I find it fun to analyze. Despite the storyline depicting Batman in a bad light, that his allies are always there for him, why isn't he there for them in this instance? I still side with Batman. It may not have been right, per se, but it was necessary. Batman is only human, and he finds himself among individuals much stronger than him. He is a man among gods. Why wouldn't this be a logical course of action? Not only does Batman need an edge against these heroes if the moment called for it, but so do the people of Earth. It makes complete sense. And adding to that, I don't feel it was necessary to tell his teammates. Any sort of suggestion or indication of an attack like this would make it futile, essentially, even if you were vague. Anyone could piece something like that together given enough clues, and the very idea of a contingency existing against you begs the question, would you become paranoid yourself in the long run? Couldn't that potentially complicate things even further? With that said, going behind the backs of those that trust you is wrong. They all fight for the same goals and have done so for years. Why would Batman feel the need to do this? Well, time and time again, members of the team have went rogue, or been controlled by villains in some way. It has happened and will happen again. It's inevitable. And yeah, Batman broke their trust and that's wrong, but they need to realize they are not the same. They may all be heroes, they may all be a team, they may even consider Batman one of them, but at the end of the day, he's not. He's just human. His contingencies may seem quick and precise, relentless in their forms of attack, but then again, Wonder Woman and Superman could snap Batman in half like a twig if they wanted to within a moment's notice. That sounds pretty quick and precise to me too. If anything, Batman having these contingencies evens the playing field a bit more. He needs them. The rest of the world needs them. The big thing is that Batman's schematics fell into the wrong hands. Ra's al Ghul got a hold of them and all hell broke loose. That was the end result of their creation. In many ways, the Dark Knight is a bit of a hypocrite, because the power fell into the wrong hands, just like the powers of Superman and Wonder Woman could have. The main reason he came up with them in the first place. But that's the thing with any weapon, isn't it? Anyone can use it in any way they see fit. That power can corrupt, can go straight to your head. In the wrong hands, it could be used to cause endless tragedies, and everyone is susceptible to their influence. If anything, I view these contingencies of Batman as a form of superpower. It's no different than the ones the other members of the League possess over him. I feel he has every right to have them, every right to know about them, when the others don't. Once again, you've got to even the playing field somehow, not just for Batman, but for the rest of the world. It's only fair.